sessions here.
Indeed, Aljosja. First of all, welcome to this BSCA Big Impact on Supply Chain chats. We do this kind of meetings on a regular basis every month. Thanks for accepting our invitation, by the way. It's a chat. As you can imagine. There's no audience, so it's just us talking on specific topics from sustainability, ESG, and of course, blockchain and other technologies. So, so your profile, we did invite you because we thought you running amazing projects, and glad to have you here. So maybe it's worth if you could introduce yourself briefly, telling us who you are, what you're doing, and then we can start the base.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you first of all for inviting me. It's an honor to be in the presence of three people who are so well known and so familiar with both blockchain and supply chain.
Who's that?
Well,
I think you're on the wrong call.
That was the problem. I was, I had some problems with the I mistyped the ID. Okay, that's why I didn't get on very quickly. No, so all joking aside, I mean, it's both topics have my special interest for quite some time. Perhaps a little bit of background from my side. I've been working in information technology and supply chains for, I would say, 25 years. Switched sometimes really hardcore technology and sometimes more on the business side of things. So I had a chance to both get an understanding of the domain and also the technical challenges on a, I would say, on a global scale. I'm co-founder of Docklab. Docklab is a 100% subsidiary of the Port of Rotterdam. We are set up to basically act as a venture studio to help accelerate digitization in global supply chains and energy transition. And what we do there is we take a problem. We try to find a solution for that using emerging technologies, blockchain, but you can also think of IoT or AI or any other of these technologies. And once we've identified not only that it solves the problem, but and it's technically feasible, but apparently then there's also a market for it. We start doing our magic when it comes to venture building, and then in the end it should become a standalone spin-out that stands on its own 2 feet and grows without any involvement of Docklab anymore. And then we move on to the next challenge. Apart from, I have the role of CTO there, so I'm the one responsible for technology. And next to that, I'm also a visiting lecturer at the University of Southern California. I teach a elective course called Emerging Technologies in Supply Chain, which I give once a year. I'm also co-author on a book on blockchain and supply chain, currently in its 2nd edition, also translated into Mandarin. So it's a very nice. So yeah, the topic blockchain and / emerging technologies in supply chain, that's basically what I do all day.
I think you're a decent fit for this crowd.
Sorry?
I think you're a good fit for our crowd.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, that's for
you
sure.
have some arguments, let's say. You have some topics to share. Aljosja, you first started in 2017, if I remember, Docklab. Tell us about your pathway so far, and then the name of the company was changed into Docklab. So give us a little story about what you're doing in your experience so far.
Yeah, I got involved in blockchain, or my first contact with blockchain technology was in 2013, when somebody asked me to have a look at a paper somebody called Satoshi written. The question was, should I invest in Bitcoin? That was really the question why I had to read the paper. And I read the paper and I was immediately fascinated because I saw some very obvious use cases for the technology in logistics, in particular, well, transfer of ownership, bills of lading, and also a new way of creating a form of interoperability between various systems. And also the whole idea of smart contracts and the complex coordination that you have within supply chains. Or it was also something where I was like, oh, wow, this can be something really big. I started, I had to read the paper a couple of times. Then I actually gave the answer to my cousin, no, don't invest in it because it's not going to scale. Technically, I was right. Luckily, my brother-in-law is very stubborn, or my cousin is very stubborn, so he bought Bitcoins anyway. He made a lot of money out of it. But I never saw crypto as really the use case that was really of interest for me. And in 2016, there was a project in the Netherlands that was organized by the Dutch Institute of Logistics about blockchain supply chain management. And that's where I met actually one of you three, Mr. Graafstein, for the first time. Working on a different use case, by the way. I got into contact with Exact and also ABN AMRO, but commercial finance part on can we build a proof of concept on using blockchain for inventory financing. We tried that, learned a lot, and in the land of one eye is where the one eye is king. I was bombarded to be a blockchain and supply chain expert. So the next step was
I like the bombarded.
It's not that I had a problem with it, but it was really, I mean, it was really early days, and there was so much to still to learn and still to get to know that. It wasn't really. I felt like. Okay, I know probably 1% more than the rest, but let's see if I can stay up, keep up with the developments. But at the same time, Port of Rotterdam started to get interested in blockchain technology as a potential disruptor of the maritime industry and the maritime supply chains. And I was asked to, together with another who's still also who's co-director still, Jan-Joost Julens, to write a paper on what can you do with blockchain in logistics and supply chain, which we did. And then basically we got the request, well, yeah, it seems like you guys know what you're doing. Perhaps we should make it work and see what we can do in a lab setting with blockchain technology and help the adoption of the technology and within the maritime world. So that's what we are still doing. The only thing is, since 2017, what we have seen is that first of all, we are with way more people. When we started in 2017, we were at only 3 actually, sorry. Right now, we are with 25 people, and we have our own development team. Almost everybody who works at Docklab is a computer science engineer. So we and we build solutions. We do that together with partners, really in co-creation. That's sometimes difficult, sometimes easier, but we really believe that this technology and blockchain technology is really requires collaboration, and you don't implement blockchain technology on your own. It's something that you have to do within a consortium of industry, the relevant players within that supply chain. So it's always in co-creation, and we have now created 3 spinouts that started that are still some of them are really run by separate entities, so they really are they become a standalone organization in the energy transition and also in supply chain. We built a solution for peer-to-peer energy trading with support of blockchain technology. A fully digital custom solution that basically digitizes the whole process of export and imports between the Netherlands and the UK. And we've recently set up a separate entity for hydrogen supply chain. That's what we have been doing, and that's what we're continuing in doing.
Coming to the domain of the option, that's very interesting, by the way. Maybe I'm stuck on this, but you see, I see a big difference in blockchain made by use cases. Can you elaborate into what's your opinion? What are the best use cases you're working on in general? What are the use cases that blockchain cover perfectly or close to perfection?
Yeah, what we really look for is, and I actually realized that I forgot to answer one other question that you asked earlier, and that was the change in name from Docklab to Docklab, and that really had to do with emphasizing not the technology but the solutions that we were building. So it was really about we wanted to really explain to people we're building solutions. We're not trying to push technology. So I've answered that one. When I think about when we started with Docklab, we were really a new technology with immense claims. I mean, you're on Time magazine as a technology, and you're called the truth machine. It's quite, it's a big shoes to fill, so to say. So we really started with potentially it can do everything. It can wash, dry, and keep your house clean, as well as bring world peace. Let's try to narrow that down and see where it really makes sense and where we can really where the technology can make a difference.
It's fun to see Bob smiling because of.
Bob's always smiling after a lecture point.
He's always happy.
If it's to do with the household, it's really nice and peace. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen actually. So I think, but I don't think that's a result of blockchain or not. I think we would have had the same situation. But I think that so we then started to look at, okay, what can you really do with it, and there took some time and some effort to really really pinpoint where we think blockchain makes sense, and there will be other people who have different opinions, but as far as we are concerned, within Docklab, we think these are really the areas where blockchain shines. One of them is creating a common frame of reference over all kinds of different systems, without putting all the information in the open. I think a nice example of that is the work we have been doing for quite some time together with the port authorities in Singapore and IMDA on trade trust, which is really about digital of ownership, but it starts really with the concept of a single source of reference that is accessible for everybody, yet you don't share all your data and everything in the open. But it does provide proofs about the origin, the integrity, etc., of documents. And I think that's one very valid use case, and that we have implemented also, for example, in our peer-to-peer energy trading solution, a single source or a common frame of reference about transactions and in case of the energy trade. In the case of EBL, or it's a document. So I think that's very useful thing that the technology brings, which is very difficult to implement or without the use of blockchain.
Let me interrupt you for a second. You brought up a great point. Are there still today, because yes, the technology itself is not new, right? It's been evolving over the last year. Are there barriers with the actual technology, not the business side, not the human side, not the change management, not the regulations, but on the technology side, are there still barriers keeping us in a wider supply chain context, keeping us from using this technology?
No, I don't think so. I think
you use it every day, right? You use it often, right? Yeah. Are there barriers?
No, I think that things as speed, transaction costs, I mean, these things have been covered. Also, the big energy guzzler thing is also gone. So I don't think there's a technical challenge anymore. What can still improve, I would say, is the usability of the technology. But also there, I think that really to allow, I would say, the user experience of blockchain could still be sometimes a little bit daunting. Not for technical, people who have a good technical background, but explaining a wallet and the use of a wallet can sometimes still be intimidating for a lot of people. I think there probably needs some more work, but once you explain it to people, it's also like, it's not that much more difficult than using a bank account. The only thing is, in the Netherlands alone, we have close to 1 million people who cannot work with a digital bank account. So it's quite still a large group of people.
To your point, we're building solutions, not technology. So we shouldn't have to explain what a wallet is, or a DLT wallet or blockchain wallet. We shouldn't have to explain that to people, right?
Yeah, correct. And I think the technology could be perhaps in certain cases more user-friendly, but I think that's not really a technical challenge. It's more, how can you hide part of that complexity and in a way that you don't, that you keep the advantages of the technology and without, that you keep the advantages of the technology. So I think but that I don't see really as a technical problem. I mean, what we, how we use blockchain is really something that is implemented on a daily basis and is used on a daily basis. So there's for what we use blockchain for, we don't see any technical barriers there. No.
Glad to hear.
Yeah. No, I mean it's and basically that also brings me actually to the second point, because what are the typical use cases? Transfer of value is a second one. That's basically what it was designed for in the first place to do. So when you have a document of title like an EBL, but thanks to the Electronic Trade Document Act, other documents have also been qualified as documents of title. Interesting enough, also an inventory receipt is now a document of title, or can be made a document of title. Interesting developments, I would say. But that basically making that work is and transferring that using tokens, or yeah, basically turning a document of title into a token and then transferring that token from one wallet to the other. That was basically the foundation of in 2009 of the paper. So that part I think is also now becoming more and more accepted. I think they even call the ETDA the Blockchain Act. So it's that transfer of value and is really something that I think can be used today, is used today, yes, there's still improvements to be made, but that technology is well enough, is advanced enough to be used in real day-to-day transactions. And the third one, and I think that's where technically, you could argue that is also that is also quite mature in terms of the underlying technology is really complex multi-party coordination, aka smart contracts. I think there the real challenge is really, if we want to really make it into contracts, and how can we get that complexity of law into the code, and I think that's where still a lot of that is still tough. That is not technically possible, but has more to do with what we try to accomplish there. But transfer, I mean, one of the things, digital transfer of ownership relies on smart contracts. And basically these smart contracts are so advanced that you can basically transfer a document of title using smart contracts. So I would say also that technology has developed far enough to be used in real life use cases.
Cool. Aljosja, there are two things that I'm curious of. We hear talking about tokens, about digital twins, and I was wondering, what's your opinion about that? How do you see the use of tokens as digital twins, maybe in a supply chain scenario?
Well, I think the way we looked at tokens, you can see them as a source of value, like for example an EBL. But one of the things that we thought about was, well, you can these tokens can act as a kind of anchor for information related to a physical item in the real world. And the nice thing is that it's not a static thing. It's not like it's called. The nice thing about a token is that you can relatively easily move it from silo to silo, or basically you transfer it on a layer on top of those silos, and then people can add their own references or pointers to data about a certain event or a certain product to that token. So what we saw was that you have digital twins that really are a digital twin of the product, but ideally you would also like to see a digital twin of the processes that are in a supply chain. And when we look at what's happening in the supply chain, it's input, transformation, output. And normally it means that different parts come together, they are transformed, and then a new part comes out, or vice versa. One thing is going in, you do a transformation and multiple parts come out, which is something you can mimic very easily with tokens. So we thought, okay, this might be a way to not only do digital twinning of the product, but also do digital twinning of the processes involved. And especially if you look at ESG processes, you want to know, how much CO2 emission or how much gas or how much oil am I putting in a transformation, and what is the outcome? Is it and that can be hydrogen. If you do use oil and gas, that's basically black hydrogen. But you can also use wind energy, and then all of a sudden the output is green hydrogen, and then a token represents a batch of green hydrogen. So and the nice thing is that all these batches, for example, come together in a terminal, and then all these tokens are put together and they become a new batch of a combined. It might be that green hydrogen gets merged with black hydrogen. Yet still, you are capable of going back to the origin of each original batch, and then you can say something meaningful about the new state. That is how we saw use of tokens for ESG type of problems. And it was quite funny because we started with a commodity trade of coffee beans, where we basically identify, well, there are a lot of different processes, handlers,
Traders,
etc. And so we started working on that. We modeled the tokens and we modeled the smart contracts to accommodate that process. And then we were almost done with the project. It was a project that was supported by the Dutch Institute of Advanced Logistics. And then we actually got approached by the Port of Rotterdam, something with green hydrogen, digitization. How can we make that work? Because how can we be sure that when green hydrogen is being imported as green hydrogen is really green hydrogen? So my partner in crime, Aljosja, he started doing some work and really getting to understand the market and what was driving into what's driving the development of the green hydrogen supply chain. And he basically said, well, you know, the $100 billion question is really, if you can prove that something is really green, then you can sell it for way more money than when it's black or gray or whatever other color they have. So yeah, it would be really nice if when these badges arrive, that you can really show the history of what happened with that badge. So we were then we actually said, well, hey, we already have that. We built it. And he was a bit skeptical, to be honest. But we showed it and it was like, wow, okay, this is basically, very close. Okay, I don't have to think about coffee beans and you know, but I can understand that if you can do this for batches of coffee beans, the process is quite similar. You have different data, you have different user interaction, probably different reporting requirements, but in its core, it can really use that system. We started working on hydrogen with that. Then somehow biofuels came along. We showed it to people in the biofuel world, and they were like, we showed the hydrogen solution to the people in the biofuel world, and they were like, yeah, no, it's actually very similar to what we had. Yeah, this is how it works. Yeah, the reporting is different, etc. And then we thought, okay, you know, how many twins can you have? Now we're also looking at, for example, how can you use this digital twinning solution for supply chain, for NIS2 type of certification in supply chain. So really, you know, how do I model my digital supply chain, not a hard and software, in a way that I know that somewhere in layer 3 of my supply chain, somebody is using a device that comes from a country that I don't want to do business with. So this is a very, I sometimes jokingly call it a Swiss Army knife solution. But in its essence, it's really how tokens can mimic not only the product, but also the process these products go through. So I think that's where I think that there's a huge potential, and I think we're doing now pilots, so it's pretty early phase still, but I think this is really where there's a huge potential for blockchain technology in that respect.
Awesome.
Actually trigger me, Aljosja, because you also were referring to the peer-to-peer energy market, that platform. Has that been possible to run, or is it actually running on the same principle, so that actually you can connect these digital twins together with the peer-to-peer trading?
No, where we use the blockchain for in peer-to-peer trading is really to make sure that we have a very accurate bookkeeping. So it's really a ledger that really lodges all the transactions and all the trades, and allows you to go back in history to make sure that you were not short. That when you think your bill is wrong, then you can go back all the way and really can see that, yeah, no, this is the only way the bill is correct. So that is why what we use it there really as a very elaborate ledger for to keep sense of or to keep control over the energy trades.
Because I was thinking, if a token is also representing amount of cubic meter of green hydrogen, you can also sell and trade on that part, and you could also
definitely
put that in the ledger. So that made me think immediately. Do you use the same principle there?
No, that's we for the peer-to-peer energy trading, we haven't used that. That's actually a very interesting thought. Has more to do with the particular application of this energy trading situation. It is it's peer-to-peer, but it's within a microgrid. There's not really there's no supply chain type of transactions involved. I mean, they take solar power, they transfer, they turn it into electricity, and then they use the electricity. What I think the token part, the reason why we think the token part is of interest is really when it comes to things that get transformed through multiple parties, and each party adds new information or new processes to a particular batch. So that's why we also the peer-to-peer energy trading was designed quite some time ago. So we who knows? It's an interesting idea for sure.
Cool. We were mentioning earlier ESG. You saw that we've been getting speeches about ESG even recently. If you remember, Bob, we had Rebecca Harding in early July, talking about these topics in connection with the reports about ESG at IFA. I personally see blockchain and ESG as a quasi-perfect marriage. Would love to ask your opinion about this, how they can get along together, and blockchain technology and ESG in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the core problem ESG has is it's similar to GDPR. You know, it's regulation. People think, and I'm not saying it's not that ESG is a bad thing, and it's regulation. And then you need to start reporting on it. But you know, most companies don't even are already struggling with keeping their own the data and reporting within their own four walls about their own internal processes. That's already hard enough. And then they all of a sudden they also need to do that for the whole supply chain. It's a huge task, and we're not gonna solve that by just, you know, stitching together all kinds of databases and ERP systems, etc., without some really clever and other ways of implementing technology. And I think the way we have done it is basically just that, to allow this through creating this digital, using a token as a digital twin, as a way to simplify that reporting. And I the biggest challenge I see there is how can we get as accurate data, and how do you prevent people greenwashing or whatever. That is that's a challenge, but that's a challenge that I think is solvable if with still the technology that we have available, and also with the way of how and staying within current regulations, and so I think their technology can really help accomplish these companies in becoming more ESG compliant. instead of just relying on all kinds of, paper process.
Yeah, a lot of maybes. Yeah.
A lot of yeah, exactly, and I think in this respect, these kind of new compliance laws are really pushing companies to really implement new ways of working and new technologies, because that's really where, if you're serious about ESG, then you want to show that, and then you will and there is now a way, or the technology is there to help you in doing that. So it's more, I think, in order to make this work, this is more of a question of whether companies want to, than whether it's a question of whether it's possible, whether it's technically possible, and yeah, that I think is the where blockchain and ESG really come together perfectly.
Do you see a day where a small textile manufacturer in Bangladesh will trust the technology enough, or trust the ecosystem enough, to provide his carbon emissions, for example, right, the E, to the next person in the chain, and that person will trust enough to provide the ESG or the E to the next person in the chain, all the way up to the regulator, right, who needs that information for reporting purposes, or to the end user, the Tesco, or the H&M, who's going to provide that to the consumer. You see a day where all that is going to come together using maybe this technology, maybe something else, but that the ecosystem will trust each other enough to provide that information to a specific chain, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you see is that when these are things that are voluntarily, it's probably not going to happen. But what you see is now that it's becoming law. I mean, companies will get penalties. The cost of compliance is high. Yeah, in the end, also, it's not if a supplier in a country says, well, I'm not going to provide that information, then you're probably not going to be selected next year to provide the product. Yes, there will be other clients for him or her. But I think that this like what you see in the green hydrogen, where basically people are willing to pay a premium for the fact that it is green hydrogen.
And you go to the supermarket and you see an organic apple or banana versus a non-organic banana. I mean, some of us will choose the organic one because we care about ourselves, and some will choose the lesser priced banana, right?
And the most important thing is that it's still a consumer choice. Whether you want to buy a banana that's full of pesticide, well, that's probably not right, but organic versus non-organic.
We're not picking on the banana industry. We're not picking on you.
I eat a lot of bananas, actually.
They are powerful. They might be listening.
So you
have to watch out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to name any names. So I think what's really important here is that there's a consumer choice, and then that consumer choice should still be there, I think. What you want to prevent is that people can make claims about something that's not true, yet still catch that premium. That's I think the whole the essence of ESG. And if you are a provider of organic products, and you really want, that you take pride in your product, and you want to, then you want to show the rest of the world, this is how I do it, and I got nothing to hide. And I think that's where then you surround yourself with suppliers that basically have the same mindset, but you cannot control each and every supplier whether they're doing what they are supposed to do, because it's on a global scale. You cannot send people every day to visit all kinds of foreign locations, but you can get that done electronically, and yet still show that you're in control of your process, and that the premium you're asking is actually a premium worth paying. And I think that's where the real added value of getting blockchain and ESG together is really proving that additional value is there.
I fully agree with Aljosja in this perspective. It depends a little bit on, of course, the producer or the person at the start of the chain. What is their marketing, their positioning in it? If they really think it's important to show this is really the origin, they will probably start embracing the technology. If there's a company which is still hiding a little bit in the dark, I think then you really have to rely on the larger companies here in Europe or in the United States, where the laws and regulations become more and more stringent to get more insight. And then the technology can help with the accounting, just as you described as well. So it really depends a little bit, but the majority, my opinion, is it starts really with the larger focal companies of a supply chain.
Yeah, and I also think one of the things that's now really happening in the world of supply chains, I think, and is we're moving to nearshoring. We do see producing closer to the market where you sell your stuff, and that brings all of a sudden, I think, also a lot of production. Well, in the case of the US, within NAFTA territory, so it makes it forces then already these three countries to establish certain rules on what is product quality and how do you report on that. So there's so even if you don't want to be report, then you still have to. So there's also, I think, in that respect, a certain push from changes in world trade that are pushing companies to really start reporting in a way that they got nothing to hide anymore. So.
Cool. Since we're approaching the end of this talk, one question that usually pops in my mind: what do you see coming next for blockchain? What's in the future, in the near future, in the midterm, blockchain technology?
Yeah, I think, and the way I see blockchain technology is evolving, and that's actually also what we experience within Docklab. It is part of your toolkit to develop a solution. So it's becoming more and more. Yeah, okay, I got this toolkit of technology. It's AI, it's IoT, blockchain, and we use blockchain for this and this and this. So it's becoming, I think, less of a you know,
To steal somebody else's words, it's not going to save the world, right? Blockchain won't save the
it's not
world.
going to save the world,
Right.
but it can help a little bit in making the world a little bit better.
Yeah.
And help companies become more efficient. It can help governments to become more efficient. So and it's so I think it's becoming more and more of a your regular toolkit if you want to build solutions, and blockchain has to be part of that. And if you need to understand that in order to build something meaningful. I think what I think is very interesting, and I think that is really a trend that is about that is becoming more. I mean, a couple of years ago we had this discussion about public versus private, and and people, you know, it was like it was almost religious kind of discussions that we had, that there were.
We got wrapped up in the crypto bro conversations way too much a few years ago, I think.
Also that, but and yeah, so, and what we see now is that, I mean, when I started to interact with, for example, IMDA and in Singapore, which is the government, it's the Singaporeese government who's behind it. But they're actually pushing a public blockchain. And that was for me like, okay, you know, this, and these guys, they really thought things through really, really well. I have a lot of respect for IMDA and the people who work there. And I think, okay, if a government is willing to go on a public blockchain, something that, you know, in 2019, when you said it to a company, well, yeah, private blockchain makes absolutely zero sense. You have to do it on a public blockchain or not, or don't do anything. And the companies were like, then we don't do anything because we want, you know, we want to keep it controlled. And then all of a sudden that project started, and that was for me, okay. Then if this could be something that really, if this is successful, then this will open a real world of potential use cases for blockchain technology. And I think what we will see is really the whole concept of a public chain, that will grow, and I think there should also be some and that has happened also over the last couple of years, a kind of rationalization of, you know, what are the things we should do on this piece of technology, and that's probably not creating NFTs of bored apes, but it's those kind of stuff.
I don't think it's the case. I think we're doing something pretty different.
So and so I think that the real or for a particular set of use cases, and I think the ones that I mentioned are quite valid, or that we use for what we use blockchain for within Docklab, is, I think, the use cases where blockchain technology makes a perfect sense, and I think there the level of sophistication and will of the use of public blockchains and the adoption. I think it's primarily the adoption that I think is going to be growing in the next couple of years, and that will bring new challenges in terms of scaling and the usability and how do we manage that complexity. But I do think that the foundations that have been laid are solid enough now to make that step. So I do think that the move is towards public blockchains and being seen as something that companies can use in order to and governments can use them to make the processes more efficient. So I that's my main prediction is really the growth in the use of public blockchains for serious applications.
Well, we're looking very much forward to seeing what next projects are coming out of your team. Thank you very much for sharing all your great stories.
Really good one.
Yeah.
May I still ask one question before we really end? Because I think there must be someone in the audience and thinks like, wow, this is really cool technology and I really want to use it. Well, Eric and Aljosja, you have said like the technology, that's not the issue anymore. Maybe there are some small barriers, but you can use it. And Aljosja, you really made clear it's all about collaboration. Well, we have done it, so we know about it. It's about partnerships. So what are actually your tips? Because you have been very successful also with free spin-offs out of Docklab. What are really key elements as tips you want to give to someone in the audience if you want to do a partnership, you want to create something together with the help of something out of the toolkit, could be blockchain, could be anything else. But what are the most important ingredients actually you have to think of to be successful?
Yeah, what we normally look for when we start a project is what I call a minimal viable ecosystem. What do I need to prove the value of the solution? And that's normally not by starting a project with 50 different participants or 50 different stakeholders, but really think about for whom am I building this solution? How can I prove the value of this solution with the minimal number of participants? And how do I select these participants and make sure that that system still then is interesting enough for other persons to join who might be even each other's competitors? I think that's that's really on a business scale, trying to identify that those stakeholders and identify and agree on, okay, this is how we're going to work. And that I think that is sometimes it's not always, we have not always been successful. I mean, we tried a couple of times also, and we were like, nah, this is not going to work. So there's no, but I think that's really the core tip I can give to anybody who wants to really do things in co-creation. I mean, the Docklab has, we have our marketing slogan is "Smart beats wicked." So we're not just building an app. We want to deal with really big problems, and we so-called wicked problems, and find smart solutions for that. And that requires this ecosystem really getting into understanding, okay, what's the ecosystem in which the application is going to be used, and which parties do you find? And that requires quite a lot of talking normally in order to find the right people and the right organizations. But somehow, and it also helps that we are related to the Port of Rotterdam, which has a very strong ecosystem itself. So that helps in really being able to see to identify interesting partners, and I think that's really the key part of and after that it becomes execution. But yeah, this part is really, I sometimes call it dark magic, because it's you know, it sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't work.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Dre, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aljosja. It was a really, really interesting talk. Thanks for joining us today, by the way, and sharing. We'll be sharing the recording of the meeting on our YouTube channel, on LinkedIn. And after that, I think Bob and I will draw a memorandum of the meeting to be shared with you and to be also shared in a post on LinkedIn as well, so that we don't keep track of what we have discussed and make it an organic body frame for us to share with the community. Thanks again, Aljosja. It was really interesting talking to you.
Thank
today.
you. It was a pleasure to have such a nice conversation with the three of you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Perfect.
It was
Before
a
I
lot
say
of
next
time.
Bye. Bye, gentlemen.
Cheers.